Hi, I'm back here again with my Robin RC-32-1A shoe patching sewing machine, also known as the Chinese shoe patcher here on YouTube. Um, and I wanted to show you a couple of things I was able to create with this unique machine, as well as share a few tips on how I was able to do those things. So, these are 4 pieces that I created with the RC-32-1A. Where this machine really excels is not on big pieces at all, actually. The bobbins are so tiny on this thing that it's a huge pain to load them, and it's just not really for big pieces most of the time. The best feature that this machine has is that you can get real tight into corners, and this machine will go through real tough stuff. Not only that, you can change the direction of feed while the piece is in, while the needle's in the piece. Yeah. So what that lets you do is create stuff like this, where you have, and again, these are not perfect examples of craftsmanship, but they illustrate why this machine is so cool. So I made this cool little pipe case. This is a pipe of my dad's that I found, and I just wanted to give it a nice little case. So it's a piece of leather. This came out all weird, kind of weirdly shaped because I tried drying this piece after casing it. I tried drying it in the microwave, and that didn't go so well for the leather. And of course, that's before I put this snap in there, so it didn't have any metal in the microwave. But it warped the whole thing. This actually started out as a totally straight piece of leather for the back, and you can see it got real wonky. And I decided to plow ahead. Now, this machine was able to get nice and tight. Raise that needle up just a little bit. So, raise that needle up. I was able to get in super close to that edge with this machine because of its design. I mean, it'll let you get in super close. I have a real tight tolerance on the outside, and I've got to miss my my compartment on the inside, and this machine let me do it. So I'm gonna push this needle up to make sure that I can get back in there. But yeah, you can get right in there. I suppose for this particular example, I could have used a different machine. This probably would have gone through a regular walking foot just fine. But if I really needed to, let's see. I could get inside of this piece and sew some stuff on there. I mean, I don't want to damage it, but you see what I mean? Like, it doesn't care. It will let you sew like anywhere, which is why it's so cool. So that's one of the first things I made. The actual first thing that I made was this little holster. It's just a holster for a Y wrench. I thought of making a holster, but I didn't want to get too big with it. And I just thought that it was kind of like a dumb, fun little thing. This was how the leather was already. It had this little hole in it, so this is almost like a scrap piece. So, but it turned out kind of cool. I thought it was fun. It did go through 3 layers of, I believe this is like 9 or 10 ounce leather, so pretty thick. And it did that without any problems. Couple of tricks that I found really useful with this machine. A shortcoming that you need to work around is the fact that this machine does not have any feed dogs down here on the cylinder arm. There's nothing on the bottom of the piece to help feed it through. You're relying completely on that foot to draw the workpiece through. Okay, and the needle doesn't move either. Like on a triple feed machine like my Juki 1541 over here, the needle moves, and that helps move the piece through as well. Now this doesn't have that. All it's got is that foot on top, which means that with thicker pieces like this, it is hard to get that stitching nice and even. Which is why it's really helpful to mark out where you want your holes to be beforehand. On a cased piece of leather, in order to get relatively even holes, you can see relatively even holes down here. I use this thing to mark those holes first, and it just rolls along marks your holes for you when the leather's nice and wet. Very helpful. And then as the piece is going through, you can really use your fingers to make sure that that needle lands in the right place where you want it to be, okay? If you're making something like this, you are going to be right up in this machine, especially since you're going to have your other hand on your handle over there. And that roller skate wheel's my handle, okay? All right, so, yeah, mark your holes beforehand. Now, this was probably the biggest pain in the butt to get through this machine. This is a holster for my Ruger Wrangler, or not my Ruger Wrangler, my what's it called? Heritage Rough Rider. Yeah, this is a case for a cross draw holster for a Heritage Rough Rider. So just goes like that, and you can have it on a belt. You can sit down with your pistol just like that. The pain in the butt about this, let me get my ruler, was going through about a 1/2 inch of leather. This machine really didn't like doing that because if you go, here, I'll put the foot down and you can see. If I'm going through this piece, you'll notice if I put a ruler on that, well, it's hard to get it in there, but if you look here, you'll notice it's getting down to about 1/2 inch in there. And when you have the foot sitting on top of the workpiece, I'm not going to actually put it in there, but if you have the foot sitting on top of the workpiece, this needle bar clamp will come down and impact it. So it's going to hit the top of that foot if that foot is sitting up on top of 1/2 inch of leather. So my solution for that involved adjusting the timing just a little bit, but I let the needle sit down in the needle bar a little bit farther by loosening my clamp. So I loosened this clamp, I put the needle a little bit farther down inside of the needle bar and reclamped it. Now what that let me do was get my needle bar, well, get my needle down a little bit lower without having to have the needle bar, sit high. So yeah, it just extended a little bit farther and I was actually able to get through the piece. It's a whole process. I might upload a better video on how I did that, but I'm just kind of showing you that it can be done. It can be done. It looks really ugly on the back, but it can be done. Lastly, this thing is a little caddy. I've never seen one of these, but I got carried away with making this thing, and I really like it. It's just a little desktop caddy for some leather tooling equipment that I commonly use. So it's not all of the tools, but this is just stuff I might want to have just at hand. And it's really stable. It's actually pretty hard to knock this thing over. And it's just scrap leather. So it's like this little, it's like almost like a Home Depot bucket with a little toolkit on the outside. And the reason I was able to make this, and with this machine in particular, was that I actually made the circular part first. One of the big advantages of this machine, now I could have done this flat. I could have done this as a flat piece and just fed it through a regular sewing machine, but I didn't because I'm dumb. And this machine will let you be dumb with stuff. Usually you have to figure out every feature you want on a panel and then create that panel on a flatbed sewing machine like this. You have to create that panel with all the features that you want on it first, and then you give that panel shape. And then you can put it on a piece, you can mount the panel. But say you create a pocket for like a backpack. I don't know, like a pocket for a backpack or something like that. And you put it on the backpack and you realize, oh shit, I meant to put something on that panel that I didn't put on there. You can't get that machine into that panel. You can't get that panel over the machine. They just aren't going to work together. So you'd have to remove the whole panel and do your modification and put it back in the backpack. This machine lets you think in reverse. So especially if you're experimenting, I made this thing round first, which means I'm not going to be able to put these little holder loops on there without getting something real thin to go into this shape. Again, this is just built around a soup can. I wish I could get this apart a little bit more easily. Here. So, the way it works... There we go. There we go. The way it works is something like this. There we go. Okay. So, there's the leather piece that sits around the can, and I made this circular first, and then I needed to sew these loops on. And I was able to do that with this machine, because it just fits. Oops. Because it just fits right in there. Look at that. Oh my god, it's so easy. And you can sew this direction, you can sew that direction. I could reinforce it. I mean, hell, I'll just do it right now. Why not? See? I'm sewing. I can take this piece off and start sewing shit in it right now. If I actually threaded my needle correctly, which I didn't. But you see, it's going. Right? I can sew wherever the fuck I want. Oops. Anyhow, cool features, cool machine, total pain in the butt.